What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, it's that day. It's Book of Boba Fett time, and I just got finished watching it. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to get my fresh opinion right here in the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine. So The Tribes of Tatooine is an episode that very much does a lot of different things. And the first of them that it does is the show clearly confirms a theory that I had last week, which was we are going to see two parallel timelines. We're going to see the present, what Boba's going through right now as he's replaced Bib Fortuna as the Daimyo of Mos Espa. And and then also the second timeline is going to be the past from when he pulled himself out of the Rancor, not the Rancor, forgive me, when he pulled himself out of the Sarlacc, and what he's gone through in his journeys. So the episode starts with Boba Fett having captured what we now know to be one of the Nightwind, which is an assassin group for hire. And somewhat cleverly, we get to see a really cool sequence where they threaten the ninja, sand ninja. I'm going to continue calling him. They threaten the sand ninja with being fed to the Rancor. And I thought that was awesome because you get to see the throne move and the whole bit. You know what I mean? It's very cool. Anyway, also spoilers if, you don't know how the show works. But the other thing is you immediately are let into a bigger picture of things. So the guy finally gives away that the mayor was the one who hired him, and ultimately Boba and Fennec head to the mayor's place with Dude and Chain and kind of just walk on in. It's funny because as soon as they walk into the mayor's office, like the main foyer area kind of looks like the DMV, to be honest. And so the receptionist person's very like, let's see, Boba Fett. And I'm like, oh, really? Really? We're going to do that game? We're going to do the whole, I don't know who you are game? Is that what we're going to do? Anyway, and so ultimately, him and Fennec walk right in. You see the same Twi'lek from last time, who's all trying to be all like, oh, no, it's you can't really come in here like that. They walk in, and they finally get to meet the mayor. Now, this character we have seen. He was in some of the trailers. And so the mayor tries to, through a translator droid, tries to be all, hey, man, yeah, sure. I'm here at your pleasure. Whatever. And there's so much sass being thrown, and I'm like, clearly Boba Fett's going to have to earn some respect up in this piece. And it's most likely going to end up happening very much like it does like in The Godfather, when he's got to kind of earn the trust, or not earn the trust, but earn the respect of everybody. So I think before too long, well, I don't know though, because anyway, whatever. So ultimately, the mayor sends Boba back over to the casino, and we get to see that little setup again. And this time, when they arrive, ultimately, what you end up with is Boba realizes that, or finds out that the Hutts are involved again. So Jabba, who apparently was their cousin, and they were it. So I'm conjecturing that it seems like it was okay for Bib Fortuna to take over because he was Jabba's major domo, and then ultimately he probably just kept the same show business going, and the Hutts were basically like, hey, we're going to let you sit there and be your figurehead that you want to be, and that's perfectly fine, but at the end of the day, you're going to make sure that you get us everything we need. So Bib Fortuna, that's why he's all overweight and fat and stuff, is because he kind of was like, all right, sweet, yeah, get you your thing, everybody runs the things who want to run things, and I get to just sit around and, be decadent as can be. Anyway, so after a few moments and some exchanged words, it becomes clear that Boba Fett's going to have to most likely earn his place, or he's going to have to fight his way into being the Daimyo proper. And we're going to have to see some sort of I believe we're going to have to see some sort of a come to Jesus moment in terms of all the other crime leaders. I don't want to say bosses, but I guess, the leaders of this area. Anyway, so this is what ushers us into our first, well, actually not first, it's what shifts us from the present into the past. So we we pass through rather into this kind of imaginary plane of sort of vision world, if you will. And now we're in the past. And in the past, you end up seeing this entire really interesting setup. Boba Fett witnesses the Raiders being abused by what looks like a speeder train, I guess, or whatever, a hover train, I don't know. And it comes through the desert, and people are being shot. My first thought was it was some kind of a really sick crime, what are they called? Like jungle tour, where it's like, oh, come on down here to Mos Espa. We'll go ahead and let you go. We'll take you out in the sands, and you can ultimately, shoot you a Tusken Raider. Before I go any further, I do want to say this episode does something that I didn't expect it was going to do. It lends weight and depth to the Tusken Raiders. The Raiders are characters that we have seen forever as just throwaway background. Now, mind you, I really never followed tight with Star Wars Legends, which is all the old books and canon and stuff. I did read a lot of the Dark Horse comic books, but a lot of those were focused on like main plot story things. So I don't know if maybe other authors have given the Tuskens this level of depth, but you start to see them as people. And Boba Fett as somebody who's trying to just kind of make his way. This episode made it really clear that Boba Fett's on a journey. And what we're witnessing in the present is just another leg of a journey that started when he dragged himself out of the Sarlacc pit. So Boba Fett obviously upset. Some people died. He the next day kind of follows behind, and he sees, or the next evening rather, he sees some speeders, the little speeder bikers. Remember the ones who were marking the house that Boba Fett watched last episode, and so he goes to whatever bar they're at, beats kicks some of their butts, and steals all their speeders. And he comes back and he teaches the Tuskens, and he says, "We're going to stop this train." So there's a montage of him teaching them how to ride, teaching them how to do some cool things. Meanwhile, the one who I still believe is a female who's been training him and fighting with the Gaffi stick, she is, I'm going to say she, only because the way the ribbons are set up look like hair. So I could be way off, and I may be adding gender where there doesn't need to be any, but whatever. So he leads them on taking the train. It's so funny because it's so Western in that this is the train heist. In any Western movie, this is the train heist. And they're just sitting there, because they're riding on their, not on their horses, but on their speeders, and they're right there alongside the train, and people, and and meanwhile, he's taught them how to strategize. So you got gunmen on the ridges, you have a young kid Tusken who's signaling to some of the other gunmen people and whatnot. So they're doing long distance because they got those long guns, remember? Those things are amazing. Meanwhile, him and his crew on the little speeders have made it up to the train, and they're jumped on board, and they're doing their thing, and they're fighting to the front. You have some pilot droid who's sitting there trying to jack up the speed as much as possible at this ginormous turbine engine rocket thing on top. Anyway, and so they're going. Finally, they bring the thing down. It crashes, the whole 9 yards. And Boba is sitting there very similarly to how he sat on Jabba's throne. And he's just kind of sitting there as the Tuskens are raiding the train. And I'm not sure what species this is. Forgive me for not being up on my Star Wars lore. But so the guy's like, "What? Hey, we thought you guys were just raiders. We didn't realize you were actually civilized." And which I think is kind of insulting and says a lot about them. Anyway, and Boba Fett's like, "Oh, okay, all right. Well, passage through the desert's not free anymore." You're like, oh dang, and he's like, you're gonna pay tribute to them, and we're not gonna kill you. Go home, go toward the sun, walk in a single file line. And he's like, we're not gonna survive without water. I think it's hilarious the voices they give the alien creatures, because some of them they sound like really bad 1940s characters. It's like, well, what do you expect us to do? I mean, how are we going to survive? But he's got like, he's got these catfish like antenna things, whisker things, whatever. Anyway, so Boba Fett's basically kind of declared, hey, listen, this is us in here. As a reward, we get to see this amazing sequence where the chief of the Tuskens begins to explain a little more. They're having dinner that night and whatnot, and he begins to explain to him, when the seas dried up. There's a very Arrakis Dune history about Tatooine. And of course, anybody who knows anything knows that George Lucas has admitted that he was very inspired by Dune and a lot of what was going on in Dune in terms of the setting and how it works. That's why we have sandworms and different things like that. But this was a pretty intense sequence. You learn history. And they give Boba Fett this little lizard thing, and that proceeds to take him on like a spirit journey. They've really added a lot of superstition and really cool native or aboriginal beliefs going on, and it's again depth to the Tusken Raiders. And so ultimately, what he does is he comes back from being in this fever dream, he sees a tree, the tree is the Sarlacc pit, and it's strangling him, and there's so much imagery and metaphor in what's going on, and ultimately he comes back dragging a large branch. So the branch is part of the ceremony for him to make his own Gaffi stick. I'm going to assume, I'm going to make some leaps. It's kind of like a you are becoming a warrior sort of ceremony, and so he gets taken by to go meet the female who's been training him, and they're at what is the equivalent of, I guess, a Tusken blacksmith. And there's so much that goes in. So again, Star Wars. We've always thought that, at least I've always thought, that Tusken Raiders were just throwaway, obstacle. Oh, hey, we need something for, Obi-Wan to be able to like wave his hands at and make freak out. Or once in a while, we need somebody to come be a problem, and like the Mandalorian or something. And ultimately you get this thing. But no, there's so much more to them. Even the making of a Gaffi stick is like a major like thing. Anyways, it's very cool. And I'm just excited to kind of see sort of where this journey continues to go. And in it, I believe we're seeing a parallel journey, because we never go back to the present in this episode. And so I'd be interested to see if next episode we start off in the past and then shift to the present in order to continue the storytelling. So I've heard, anyways, that's the episode. And I wanted to kind of cover it. I genuinely enjoyed this episode. I saw this episode as an 8 out of 10. It wasn't a 10 out of 10, but it definitely wasn't like last week was a little slow for me. This one, they didn't speed up, but every moment was very important. And they took the time that they spent establishing some things. And not just establishing things, but telling us a story. We're going on a journey, and I'm really loving it. Okay. So again, 8 out of 10. Now, real fast because I don't want to keep this too long. The entire idea that Book of Boba Fett is slow, and it's like, it's bad, it's this, it's that, it's whatever, and it's one of those things that I want to take umbrage with. I disagree. I didn't before, but I do now. And the reason is, I believe okay. Assuming they filmed all 8 episodes the way they've been doing a lot of things, and I think Disney Plus is the same, Disney's having the same mentality. This is essentially a movie that's been chopped up into pieces. So that being the case, we're a little bit in, we're almost to the end of Act 1. And so 2, 4, 6, yeah. So if you figure, let's say so if there's 8 episodes, we're gonna say this particular movie has a 4-act structure. So I would say we're at the tail end of Act 1. We're learning who our hero is. We're seeing there's a lot going on, and this is a really intense look at the Star Wars world. for a minute, I'm like, there's no reason that it's. I mean, golly, man, I'm half expecting to see like, oh my gosh, where's Obi-Wan? But the timeline doesn't line up. But I'm liking what they're doing. I really am, and I've come around, and I definitely think this is a good episode. It's a great show. It's beautiful. There's a couple of scenes on the speeders that look CGI or look green screen or a little fake, but the rest of it I think looks fine. The train heist sequence, wonderful, amazing, like 10 out of 10 for effects and everything. So anyway, all right, there you go. Now you know. And if knowing is half the battle, then you're halfway to being the know-it-all that I know that you can be. All right, guys, we're going to talk more about the Book of Boba Fett next week. Take a look at some other stuff. We're celebrating on the channel. We're celebrating 30 years of Image Comics. I'm doing some storytelling. I know I'm not normally the kind of guy who explains comics, but my take on it's a little different. So you want to check that out. Make sure you like, subscribe, click the little bell icon to be notified when new content drops. My voice is going to hopefully get better, so forgive me. We recovered from some New Year's Eve cold in this house. So both Mrs. Know-It-All and Baby Know-It-All are doing well. And so anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.